Alright, it seems to be working. So this is actually my first time I do content, but I thought it's just about time, and yeah, so I basically wanted to tell something about the new balancing patch that Stoneblade released last week, and I want to talk about the things that they've done right, the things I agree with, I disagree with. So I don't know. I just put up a small agenda and want to talk about the nerfs, the winners, what's now overpowered of the new cards from the old cards, some of the bad nerfing decisions. Then there are two other big topics, which are basically level screw and yeah, new players. So let's start with the great nerfs. Let me just, there we go. So the great nerfs. We have Auratic explosives. So I'm actually a huge AT fan. AT good stuff was basically my to-go deck for, I don't know, nearly the last year, basically. So I'm actually quite sad that this has been nerfed, but I can totally understand why they did it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand it. So, and I guess quite a lot of players hate this, hate being taken out by explosives. So, yeah, I can get why they nerfed it. I mean, before you could target any creature, and now it's like completely random which creature is targeted by Auratic explosives. And that is quite a huge nerf. Because usually you want to take out one certain creature or target, and I don't know, if that hits the wrong thing, you could basically lose. Because AT was a mid-range deck, and you kind of try to build incremental advantage. And once you basically build up that advantage, it was really hard to take it away from you because all your creatures leveled well. Basically, I mean, it was like mid-range deck, and yeah. So with explosives and Rage of Katras, you could basically stay ahead once you were ahead. So okay, I cannot agree with that. Now Spirit Stone Sentry, it has fixed stats now. Before it would get stronger for every creature that died that turn. So it would come back at least as 4/4. Now it just basically can't. It doesn't die if it pops back into the side lane. I think the power level is now fine. It's still getting played, I think, in more grow wide oriented decks. So I guess that is okay. Ice Grasp. I hated that card. It was ridiculously stupid. In patch or set 6.1, it basically had no counterplay. It still had 3 damage, and the deck it was in was so, I don't know. It was super easy to play, really stupid. You didn't really play creatures. You just played Ice Grasp, played a few burn spells to your opponent's face. Then you played some Edict in between, and that was about it. That were the games then with Ice Grasp. Now, in my first analysis, I actually thought that Ice Grasp is still good, but now there are simply other more aggressive archetypes that are simply better. I mean, now with this 1 damage less, it actually, I think it lost about 1.5 turns, probably maybe 1 to 2 turns. That the deck got slower, and yes, that basically means other aggressive decks can easily out-tempo an Ice Grasp deck. Not always necessarily, but then, yeah, they are usually now better threats. Relic Hunter. Yes, I think it was good also for faction identity. Now actually the relic hunter is kind of the strong part. So now you can actually really like use him in a replace deck, or I don't know, put him onto a like shard plate behemoth, and then it's a 16/16. So that is actually 16/16 breakthrough. You can have it in turn one, so that's quite big. So yes, it will still see play. I'm pretty sure the focus has shifted again. Basically, another nerf to the 80 good stuff archetype. There it was played mostly. Now it might see play in more grow wide in AU probably, like grow wide upgrade oriented decks. Sharp Blade Behemoth. Now, he didn't really get a nerf because the level 1 got even stronger, and that is easily worth the stats on the level 2. So I don't know, I'd rather have 11 stats on the level 1 than 15 on the level 2. And then the level 3 you don't see that often anyway, so it's not really been a nerf in my opinion, but it's good that it's not just a simple good stuff creature, right? It wasn't. Now it's not good at every level. Now the level 2 and 3 are basically the same, and yeah, but it's still really, really strong. Basically, it's one of the best removals, one of the best early threats if you play it with Ator in an UT aggressive deck, or you can't ignore him. And he's awesome to take out threats. So I don't know, he's like a better Dendrify in like in an aggressive meta. Because he can, like, the level 1 can take out easily 90% of all level 2 creatures, or maybe not 90, but let's say 60. We have Vago the Ancient. Yes, as you can see, it doesn't have breakthrough anymore in level 1 and 2. And that is actually enough, or a part why it's been driven out of the metagame. I think people have tried it and they've been, I don't know, probably not that successful with it, because also the life gain shell, it took quite a hit. We'll come to that later. So the shell got hit, and then taken away defender, like the level 2. You can actually survive for 2 turns to find your answer. And the answers got much better, but we'll handle that in the next section. Then Bronn. I mean, Bronn didn't get a huge nerf. Now, the only change is that it heals every other creature that you control, so he doesn't heal himself anymore. I think that is a very reasonable change, and I really like it. Still very powerful, very flavorful, but it actually makes quite some difference if he heals himself or not. So yeah, a good nerf. Rage of Kadras. I think that is, as you can see, that it doesn't have any additional levels anymore, and it's got Overload. So basically, they put Overload onto the old Rage, and that's all fine. I think it's great. Like, you have a board swipe removal with 3 shots, and that's it. Can't reuse it all over. So I think that is kind of in the. It's like an edict, maybe. Similar to. So it is definitely more fair now. Bullring Windweaver. Yes, so Windweaver got quite a huge nerf. I mean, the level 1 didn't get hit. It's always the most important part, but then the level 2 and 3, they got quite. So here they took away 2 attack, and here they took away 3 attack and 1 health, but it's still playable. It's still getting played just because of her utility, and it now actually has more utility stat creatures. So that was a good change. Howl. Yes, that was basically the best finisher before the nerf. It used to be 4 damage, now it's 3 damage per rank. So usually you played it at level 3 and it would basically create a life total swing of 24, so plus 12 for you. -12 for your opponent, and in level 4, I mean, if the game's dragged on, it was also played there, so yeah, it was just absurd. You had like a level 1 card which does 16 damage and gains you 16. Yeah. So now it's much more, it's still kind of good, but it's not in like, I don't know. There are probably now better, more flexible options actually. I don't know, if you are playing NT, yeah, you might just think, oh, maybe I should play Burnout instead, because that is at level 3, it's 8 damage, and I can actually use it on the lower ranks as well if I need to. So, yeah, it's good. It is more in line with other removal spells. And also Crypt Conjurer. Level 1 got, yeah, quite a huge nerf. It got the health removed and damage removed here, and that is actually quite a huge nerf. It doesn't look that big on paper, but also it puts it in theory in a slower meta where we're not yet. In soul range, that's another issue. And here the one more health that you gain, and I think the one more attack, it does not really matter. It's not like you're seeing it that often. So yes, so lots of problematic cards from before have been addressed. That is great. So let's talk about the balanced winners. Now, when I talk about the balanced winners, there are much more balanced winners, but now I'm basically talking about the cards that now see much more constructed play than before. Yeah, why not? Let's start with Keep of the Damned. Now, actually, yeah, he's got useful stats now. So he survives, I don't know, like the 5 damage is basically one of the magical, yeah, removal, like 10-piece removal spell, border, like, yeah, important stat lines. So it has 6 health now at level 1, then 10, 17. That is kind of healthy enough to, yeah, that is reasonable. That is survives 1 round, and then you can actually use him in. I've seen him in Grow White decks, and maybe zombies could utilize him. I haven't really seen good like new zombie decks, but we'll see. Meta's still very fresh. But yes, he's playable right now. Now, with Melis Hermit, they actually changed him. So they made him better and they made him worse. So overall, I think it's been, yeah, a good change. So now it just puts 1, 2, 4 poison on every creature, and it gains 1, 2, 4. Maybe it should be 3. I don't know. So, I mean, now it's quite a bomb, actually. And, yeah, interesting. We'll see. I definitely saw more play recently. He's still got, like, before he was more a bot wipe thing that was also acting as a threat, but... So let's come to the Necrim removal. So, the Necrim removals, there's 3 of them, they are much better now. So 2 of them are soft gated. I think I left 1 out, maybe. But yes, Death Current is actually now a playable card. I mean, if your opponent just has 1 level 2 threat, boom, it's dead. And yeah, there is this random clause, but you can kind of affect it. And now that it's soft gated and at level 3 destroys 2 creatures, yeah, it saw play. It sees play. So Grave Pact, the same. It's like also soft gated now, and it's free at level 3. And then Spirit Cleave, and where do we, the Dreadbolt. So 4 Necrom removals. So Dreadbolt is actually now hard gated, but it just outright kills a creature. So without any drawbacks, hard gated removal awesome. Just definitely sees quite a lot of play, and yeah, it's actually good that there is now a baseline for removal that is actually useful, because before all the removals had actually really big drawbacks. So they are always worse than playing creatures basically. And yeah, so that is definitely interesting. So there's playable removal now. What I forgot is Spirit Cleave. I'll show that quickly. So yeah, it's also soft gated now, and at the highest level, yeah, it gains you health, and yeah, that's also quite useful. Yeah, so it's definitely getting played, especially against yeah, late game decks. It is actually really good. So let us move on. Metaside. It wasn't actually on their patch notes, but Metaside is really good now. Because I mean, at level 1 you discard in level 2 cards, and before it had 3 levels, and at level 3 it was for free. But that was too late. I mean, games don't drag on into player level 4 most of the time, even now with the recent changes. So yeah, that was just really bad, because yeah, you had to play 2 levels before it was free. Now actually you level it once, and at level 2 it's free, and you go into player level 3 with much more leveled cards. So with 4 more leveled cards for 1 card played, basically, if you see it in level 2. So yeah, it's good. It is getting played. Quite surprising. Then Xerox the Raging. Yeah, they made him really, really good, basically. One of the biggest winners, let's say that. The level 1 is basically the level 2 with a few less stats, and he can get out of control really, really fast. So scary threat, especially now that there is actually really good Necrim removal. I don't know. Yeah, they can block him. You Dreadbolt something. Maybe something died before. It has 6 attack, and it takes out another creature. Bam! It's an 8/8. And your opponent can't ignore it, because first of all it grows further, and if he doesn't block it, yeah, you'll destroy his creature anyways. So yeah, Xerox gets lots of play and it's really good. Maybe it's a little over the top, but it could maybe have 7 health. I think that would maybe help quite a bit already. So keep his old health at 7 and 11. And yeah, so maybe they overdid him a little, but I'm happy that he gets played. Now also, that was maybe done for faction identity. Also the Umber cards, they got much better, like the Lasher got a huge buff at level 1 and level 2. Level 3 is a little weaker, but that does not matter most of the time, especially in aggressive decks. So yes, Umber Lasher is good, he sees play. I don't know, with Ator, you deal 7 damage, take out one of his creatures. It's like, I don't know, small or attack explosives. Also, you can't ignore him, right? That's also a big issue. Then Killian, yes, Killian has a good level 1 now. So he overall got a huge buff. Just this 2 attack are very relevant. There's this kind of, I mean, it's the rule of 6 of old. I don't know, maybe there's a rule of 7 now because the cards got stronger. But yeah, that can actually take out quite a lot, like way more creatures. I don't know, like twice as many easily in level 1, and that is very relevant. So that the stats here didn't change. I think it got even better. Yeah. So that is stayed the same. That is maybe was it 13 health? I don't know. That got a little weaker, but that does not matter too much. So yes. So yeah. So I wanted to start with the positive things, and now there are a few problematic cards. So not saying they should be changed to the old form again, but maybe they have to be tweaked. That it's not that easy to abuse them. Call the Lightning. Each friendly creature adds an additional time this turn. I don't know, if you have a board, that is one card that is easily 20-30 damage worth. So, and of course, I mean, and it has great synergy with lots of cards, with Umberg Lasher or the other Umberg Ice Crusher that also got way better. I think I just forgot that. Yeah. But yes, so that can actually deal tons and tons of damage. And if a level 1 spell deals, I don't know, huge amounts of damage, that can be problematic. Now, Wildfire Maiden, she might be fine, but I think it's really easy to abuse her. So, I don't know, you play, your opponent has a full board, you have a Maiden, Scythe, and pretty much his board is dead. I mean, 2 level 1 cards. It's not incredibly hard to set up. I don't know, there was actually I had such a game against. It's just very rare that it happens, but it can happen, and it's, I don't know, maybe it should have fixed damage. Would still be good, I think. Still be really good, and would also still see play. But you can't abuse that ability that easy anymore. But yeah, the story I wanted to tell was basically, yes, I play a U, I don't have Dendrify, I don't have any means to take out this Wildfire Maiden, completely full board, he plays Scythe, has a Windspark out, boom. That is 5 times 14 damage, and your board is taken out. That's, yeah, 70 damage, and your board is gone. It was full of huge creatures buffed by Dryads. Now, Skull Knight is, yeah, I don't know. It was just completely unnecessary to buff him. He was a constructed staple. You just shouldn't buff constructed staples. I don't know. It was so good. They got tons of play. Why would you buff the level 1 card? Like the level 1. Yeah, that buff just straight out didn't make any sense to me, to be honest. So I guess that should be revived. He will still see play as 8/8. He was always good. I mean, there were meta games where he didn't really fit into the shell, like into the decks, but I don't know. In the last 2 or 3 metas, he was always getting played. Even his old form. I don't think he needed the buff. Now, Dozer. Wow. I don't know. I don't think there is any other level 1 creature that is 10/10 breakthrough aggressive. I don't know. As 8/8, you could put an Skull Knight in front of it and be fine, or I don't know, like Citadel Guard, whatever. There is just Behemoth. Just one card in the whole game which can, like, once he's activated, that can easily trade with him. That's just outright stupid, to be honest. And also, what's worse is that the hate cards don't work against him. You play Justicar, he runs over Justicar. I don't know. He's still a 5/10 aggressive, and if you put that in front of a Justicar, he'll eat Justicar and still do, like, survive and live and do stuff. And that is a card specifically designed to hate on him. So, yeah. Also the same with Leylines. Wow, Leyline's entry 2/8. I don't know. It's still a 10/8. it's still better than the old Ozor, if he, even in the best case scenario. So yeah, that card is ridiculously strong. It is. I can kind of. I mean, I know why they did this because they wanted to push aggressive archetypes. The problem is, I think he's good in. So he's good in this static shock shell in UT. I think it's borderline. He could be okay-ish, I guess. But now he's just getting played in Utera Necrium, because Malice Helmet can easily activate him, and the Scorch Hydra. That is actually enough. There are 6 cards in your deck. If they can activate him, awesome, right? I mean, then you have a 10th aggressive breakthrough, and you have Immortal Echoes. So I mean, this has basically printed 2-for-1 card advantage on it, right? 10-10, you basically almost guaranteed there are literally that amount of clean answers. I mean, there are more clean answers now, like Dreadbolt or Spirit Cleave, but they are all restricted to Necrium. I don't know if you're playing AT. I don't think there is any clean answer to it. I mean, he runs over a Citadel Guard right now, so yeah. I don't know. I guess if you want to keep him as aggressive, make him I don't know, reduce him by 3 health at least at each level. Make him a 10-7, 13-10, and 16-13 aggressive breakthrough. So he'd still be, yeah, really good, but not as broken. Then, Lifeblood Riot. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I'm a little torn. So it enables quite a few new archetypes, like this really grow-wide swarm archetypes, but that has pushed them really, really, really far. I don't know, it's just insane. And it's really easy. I mean, it's not that hard to activate right now. You don't even need tons of creatures that spawn multiple tokens. But yeah, on turn 1 you could play, let's say, Patron of Deepwood. Then you have another 2-lane thing, and then you activate it. I don't know, it's board is full. And also with Immortal Echoes, yeah, what I would just kind of forgot, yes, Immortal Echoes and like Ebon Skull Knight and Scorch Hydra and Dozer, if you bring them back by Immortal Echoes, I don't know. I mean, all these cards have basically a 2-for-1 printed onto them, because they've got so big stats at level 1 that it's really hard to take them out. And then you have a card that, Immortal Echoes, that creates 2 of those. So it's basically, it is a card that can, in the best case scenario, create a 4-for-1 card advantage for you. I don't know, that is insane. But back to Lifeblood Riot, yeah, let's say she would be on my watch list, but it is borderline too overpowered, let's say that. So right now, I think it doesn't have to be huge fix, and maybe not even on the ability, but her health has to get reduced. I don't know, it's just too big of a body for that ability. Maybe keep it more in line with I don't know, like a 7-5 if you activate it, so like a 5-3. That'd be the zombie regeneration pump guy, yeah. But yeah, probably stat, like their stat has to have to be altered. Maybe that is enough. So let us get to overpowered old. What does it? I mean, overpowered old means They were okay-ish before, probably still really good, but now they are outright, yeah, either like abusable very easily, or I don't know, it's just incredibly, yeah, just over the curve basically. So Windspark Elemental. I think it has to be something has to be done about it because it restricts design space by quite a bit. That's always really bad. Like if you have to balance every damage spell or effect against that card. And now what it does, it's really over the top with both the Maiden that I just showed you and Firestorm. So I don't know. Yeah, Windspark Elemental, Firestorm on a full board. Boom, 25 damage. And as I told you before, with Windspark, with the Maiden and Windspark combo, if you can set it up, that can be even way worse. Now, as I just told you, Immortal Echoes, it always generated, it was always a good card. It always saw play as soon as it was printed, and when it, like before it was printed, when it spoiled, people knew it was an incredibly good card. I mean, there are not many cards that directly have printed 2 for 1. So I generate a full card advantage, basically. I mean, it's a random lane, and it's at the end of the turn. So it's not always full 2 for 1, but now with the reshaping and like lots of level 1 creatures got stronger, yeah, it is mostly a 2 for 1 card right now. And that, I don't know. So one fix that was suggested was that you should swap Vana's Pact and Immortal Echoes around from their abilities, so that this spawns any creature, also your opponents, and that Vana's Pact actually can only spawn your creatures. I actually quite like that suggestion, because Vana's Pact has not seen play after Tarsus Deathweaver was nerfed, so yeah, that'd be a good change. Probably both would be playable then. And then, I don't know, he's probably, maybe he doesn't have to be nerfed, but I think he's just also not in line with the other ley lines at all. And it's really frustrating. The biggest problem with Patron of Tarsus is that mono Necreum shells you can build them without a drawback, basically. There is nearly no drawback. You can actually also include, let's say, between 3 and 6 offlane, like off-faction creatures, and that is usually enough. So, because like there are so many flexible and powerful Necreum cards, that you don't really need another faction quite often, or you can build it very easily. So the restriction on Patron of Tarsus is way, way, way smaller than on the other ley lines. So Patron of Deepwood is, I think it isn't a restriction. So people would probably like to play more off faction creatures, maybe more Necreum, more Loin, more Tempe. So that could all be possible. The Eloin, yeah, it's outright bad, but also the faction restriction, I don't know, there's nothing close to a mono Eloin list right now, so it just doesn't work. I mean, that's, yeah, that has horrible level gated, not horrible ability, but level gated ability, and yeah, Eloin, yeah, usually in the cycles they get the worst. It's how it's been for quite a long time. Not always, but let's say if it's 50-50. Just to make sure no one can abuse it with leveling mechanics. At least that is kind of how I feel about it. So yes, he's kind of on my watch list because he's just so much better than the other ley lines. I mean, I like the Patron of Kadraz. It still sees play is powerful, but just in very dedicated build around shells, and you don't have to build around for Pattern of Tarsus. Basically, no, not really. Um, so let's see what is quite sad that has been nerfed. And also I said no hate. I don't know. Let's look at the ley lines. So they got one stat taken away from the level 1. And I was looking at them and thought, oh wow, they're horrible right now. And I thought, yeah, maybe I can. I was also questioning why Stoneblade did this, right? I mean, I really didn't get it. So they said, or at least that's what I heard, is that they wanted to make the level 1 less punishing, that you can then play around the level 2, but that it's also easier for the player, like even if the level 2 doesn't get an activation, to play it on the board. Now, that just sounds so theoretical. That's not how games play out. I think there are some players who like it, and I mean it's inherently, yes, it's like hit or miss basically, this leyline demons. But yeah, the level 1 is what matters, and by giving every one of them -1/-1, they trade with way less creatures. Way. I don't know. With there is, it doesn't trade with the 5 attack, more than 5 attack thing, and more than 4 health thing, and there is 95% of the creatures. Before a 4/6, I don't know, it would trade with some utility creatures. I don't know, it would trade with 5/6, for example, or even just deal more damage or be a bigger threat, basically. But from my experience, I mean, also, and you can't play to the board, right? I mean, there it's also the other reason. Like, sometimes, okay, you see your opponent is playing Duskmaw, maybe you want to play him to the board. I saw players before playing Leyline Demon to the board, but if you are playing 3/5 vanilla to the board, that does nothing. Yeah, you're losing. Even if you're playing a 9/11 or a 14/16 vanilla to the board, you are most of the time losing. I mean, it's like there are draft stats. It's just to give you a fair comparison. I don't know, that wouldn't even be a good. It's a trash card in draft, right? And then take it to constructed. Yeah, even worse. Sometimes they're getting played for free, but now that the level 1 isn't really punishing, and you can then play around the level 2, I don't know. It's they are not working. I actually tried a deck with both ley lines and faced a deck that was playing lots of, like, it was an AN mirror, and I actually just specifically wanted to like go full hate package. That's why I'm also saying this. So it had all the things. It has like Justicar, I think even an Arbiter, just one, and then 3 Leyline Demon and Sentries. And I don't know, like they don't do anything anymore. This doesn't trade with a 4/6 even. I don't know, this trades with nothing, basically. With, literally nothing. There's probably 5 cards in the game that this thing here wins against. Oh, it wins against a 3/5, so that's something. But over 3 battles, wow. I don't know. It just got so bad that the level 2 didn't. It does not matter. I mean, if the level 1 is completely useless, it doesn't matter. I mean, my deck had even leveling stuff. It does not freaking matter. I mean, the level 2 is still not great. Levels here, also the level 3. I mean, it was before, it wasn't great. That's why it didn't get played. It just had 2 bad stats. And now that the level 1 doesn't do anything anymore, more or less, yeah, you can't play them anymore. It's not worth it. It's actually, quite a huge investment into your deck to have them in your deck. And now, if your opponent can simply play around them and it doesn't hurt if they trigger once, yeah, it just makes all your later hands worse, right? So they should be punishing, right? I mean, that's their inherent nature. Otherwise, it's not worth running them. And right now, I've played with the different ones. All I can say, it's not worth it. So yes, probably revert it, make them stronger. I don't know what you could do about it. My fix could also be this, that give them a forge ability that actually does something. Then your opponent sees you're doing something. They are not vanillas anymore if you play them from your hand and if they're not getting triggered. So maybe do some kind of trade-off there. And they are not completely useless if they don't get triggered. Then, yeah, also all the other hate cards. Right now, it kind of feels... I mean, Justicar is probably the only one that is still okay-ish and that still sees play. But I don't think he is enough. And it doesn't feel like he makes the matchups where people use lots of revival effects and token effects. Yeah, it doesn't feel like he always makes them better. I don't know, in like you can use him in like leveling shells, but that's about it. So if you, I don't know, if you can level him, yeah, the level 2 is pretty good, but the level 1 is not really punishing, I would say. Also, if Immortal Echoes brings back Behemoth, yeah, completely useless. Also other cases where, yeah, whatever you bring back is still pretty good. Envalent, Arbiter, and also the Justicar. I mean, what's now the case is now the level 1s got all bigger. They stayed the same. So now all your opponent can take them out really easily. Also with Dreadbolt, all the Necromy removal. Yeah, so it's way easier to take out the hate cards, and then they basically don't do enough anymore. So probably a stat increase is yeah, needed. Not sure if it's huge. Then Stasis Warden. I'm not sure. I can totally understand why it's been nerfed. I've also been a Stasis Warden fan. But why it's bad nerf? Because it's even level gated. It doesn't say it on the card, and maybe it just has to be fixed. But yeah, so the ability on here, now you can just give your own creatures defender. And yeah, it's even hard level gated right now. So there is incredibly bad trash. So I can understand now that you can actually stall much easier. Stasis Warden would have been the first deck people would have tried, and it would have been really good. Probably, or especially against quite a lot of aggro decks, so yeah, that is problematic. I can understand why they've nerfed it, but then they should at least, I don't know, not make it hard level gated. And probably it's just a small error. Now, Aura Tech Explosives. As I said, it's a good nerf, but it's also a bad nerf. It's a bad nerf because they killed, yeah, AT. So there aren't really lots of mid-range decks anymore, like 1 to 0. So maybe NT, but not really anything anymore. And AT is, besides the, like, say, crazy leveling variant, which is probably still worse than the other leveling variants. I don't know. Let's say you face Scorcher Hydra Dozor turn 1. You're playing AT. Yeah, there's no clear answer. I don't know. You can't do anything about it, right? Before, there was maybe a chance that you probably would have overrun your dragon, but let's say Frostmane Dragon, also a good. It wasn't a nerf though. So Frostmane Dragon, explosives. Then you at least had to take like a chance to take out huge things. Right now in AT, you don't have any good way to deal with huge threats. So while it was way easier for other factions to deal with huge threats, AT's only way to do that was taken away. So that is kind of sad. Maybe they can do, I don't know, just print another new card that is Aura-Tech and soft level gated and takes out stuff. I don't know. It's not as frustrating. But yeah, so there's also this bad part about it. Now, not really off topic of the patch, but let's say looking forward. New players. So I don't know. This is just an example deck list from the old patch, and you see there is a bunch of legendaries. Oh, few heroics. So 21 legendaries, 9 heroics. If you play against such decks as a new player, you will get frustrated. And maybe I'm not aware of it, but I don't think actually that it has been addressed yet. Like if Stormblade wants to get lots of new players, and they probably want, yeah, they have to create good and cheap archetypes. And one of them has been taken away, which was Herald, which was a bad nerf. Maybe I didn't mention him, but definitely a bad nerf. Because he was actually that was basically one of the good decks which kept revival and token decks in check proactively. So yeah, with that gone, yeah, that's overall been a bad nerf as well. So yes, we need cheap decks for new players. And now overall, also to sum up this whole patch, so you can see there's been great cards, awesome new changes. I don't know. So there are also the vampires got buffed, and I don't know, like old cards which were unplayable. They're probably not constructed tier 1 playable, but they're decent now, right? I mean, that's always good. Also, Zemus got a big nerf. I mean, it didn't pay off that much. Simply because, the meta actually, they are really aggressive archetypes right now. And there are really good stall decks. So especially AU is, because it used to be a good deck before, was even one of the World Championship deck lists, or it was in the top 4. Top 4, top 2? I don't know. I can't remember. But that was AU Control with a quite similar shell, and now lots of cards got better in that shell. So yes, it is really good right now, and that can actually also take care of quite a few of the aggressive archetypes. It's a kind of hit or miss, and depends on which aggressive archetype. But yes, it's kind of that. Yes, they are. In the beginning, I actually thought, Stormblade wanted to slow down the meta, and what the fuck? It's way faster right now. So that was really odd. I don't know. I initially thought they completely failed with whatever they were trying to do if they wanted to slow down the meta. But they've basically taken two approaches. So on the one hand, they made control viable. I don't know, there's good removal right now, and there's awesome leveling cards. Killian, Metaside, they are really good and really efficient. And so it is definitely way easier. Also, Krogi is, maybe he should be also on my overpowered new. Because Krogis is actually really good now. Yeah, and also especially in that shell, in the AU level shell or AU controlled shell. Now, actually, when he is dealt damage, he gains that much life. I actually love it on the level 2, but I don't think the level 3 bomb should also have that ability. That just feels wrong. So, I don't know. If you get him, he, I don't know. The bomb can end the game quickly, but at the same time, you should let your opponent have a chance to make a comeback, like to squeeze in the last damage and to make it a race. And with Krogates, it's like, oof, I hit the board, poof, I gain 15 life, and you're dead within 2 turns, kind of thing. I mean, he's way easier to remove, especially for Necreum. And basically all the Necreum decks run one or the other of the new improved removals. So he's way, like, the bombs are way easier to take out right now. But yeah, that feels a little odd to me actually. So I think other decks should be able to raise bombs if it's somehow possible. The Krogadates 2 is fine because it doesn't take out the attacking creature. So I don't know, usually, let's say the 9/9 is in front, then yeah, it gains you 18 life, but the creature is still alive, and then it starts dealing damage again. So that is okay, I would say. But here it feels a little odd. But back to topic. I'm getting distracted too easily. So yes, what Stormlight did is actually now it's possible for both very aggressive, like UT aggressive, UN very aggressive with Dozer and Scourge Hydra, Mono T very aggressive, AT Burn is still quite viable, at least against the control decks. So there are much more aggressive variants right now. And that is probably a good thing. So aggressive decks weren't really that good before. I mean, yeah, so as I said before, also it's yeah, Dozer is probably an outlier. He should be nerfed. That would, yeah, make the level, like the yeah, the rush decks a little, or the aggro decks a little less over the top. So right now, I think they dominate because they're slightly better than the control decks, but the control decks are actually really right behind. I don't know if they'd be 2 turns, 1 turn slower. They could basically probably stall for a long, long time and then win that way. So what's kind of missing is in this current meta, and what they failed with the patch is not there is, yeah, so they missed a few problematic cards like Windspark, Echoes, I would say probably the 2 biggest ones for me. Then yeah, some of the buffs were not really necessary or did not really feel that balanced. That is the one thing, but it's not like they've had, like, I don't know, they missed it by a huge margin. I think they wanted specifically aggressive decks, and they achieved that, and they also achieved that control is viable. I mean, it is way easier to build a deck right now that survives until play level 3 and nearly levels your whole deck. So they succeeded with this, and what that kind of also addresses, at least in the current meta, is level screw. I mean, the aggressive decks win in play level 2. You don't get really level screwed there, right? I mean, a little, yes, but it's not a huge deal, right? I mean, if you don't go into level 3, yeah, I don't know, you can survive having 2 level 2s less than your opponent if you have the tools to squeeze in the last damage. Yeah, so aggro is viable, control is viable, which sounds odd. Mid-range has been kind of killed, is in an odd spot. Usually, so what's it like? So mid range is good against control, but yeah, there aren't really good mid range decks, which is a little bit sad. Or is mid range good against aggro? Mid range is good against aggro, right? Yeah, it should be from the very definition. Okay, so now the worst part about the current meta is there's no really way to hate on decks. I don't know. The deck construction doesn't really allow it. As I said before, like the hate creatures that we have, besides Etherphage, I mean, he got a buff again. He's got more attack in level 1. It's a good thing, even if he got less health. Um, so there is way less ways to adapt to a meta. You can switch decks, but it's not like you can. For me, it doesn't feel like you can really tech some special cards right now that greatly improve some of your matchups. Justicar helps a little in that regard, but most of the time, not really. The ley lines are basically dead right now. Herald is dead. So yeah, it feels kind of odd that quite a lot of the tools to actually to adapt to a meta were taken away. So that is a bad thing, and that this should be somehow addressed. That was meta talk, right? So, and of course, yeah, missing mid-range archetype. Now, about new players, yes, they still have to do lots of things in that regard. They should provide a cheap archetype, maybe take the Hearthstone route, make it an aggressive deck, because that's usually very easy to play. And I don't know, give new players the possibility to win with that deck quite easily, so that they kind of get hooked onto Constructed and then spend some money, build some other decks, because they're getting sick of playing aggro all day. And yeah, it seems to have worked for Hearthstone, so I don't know. If you make it like, if Stoneblade decides to make it a control archetype, why not? But there needs to be like a very good option that is quite cheap to get. And also, I would actually rework the new player deals, like the one-time deals. There should be some really good one-time deals. Kind of Hearthstone adventures. adventures. It kind of translates into that if you take the adventure part away and just look at getting the cards. So we need something like that for Solforge. Basically, it shouldn't be too expensive, but you get a bunch of good playable cards, and there is a one-time deal, and gets you started, kind of. Allows you to build semi-competitive decks also. So that is what we definitely need for new players. And what we also need for new players is we need less level screw. So right now, Stoneblade took the route, okay, yeah, we make control viable, like leveling stuff viable, and we make aggro viable. Perfect, no level screw anymore. But there is just part of it, right? I mean, that has fixed the issue, yes, for this specific meta, but where it did not affect level screw is actually for new players. And that is the most important part that they missed. That in draft and for, let's say, the more mid-rangey decks that probably most new players can build, like that's the only archetype that they can build, probably. Because, I mean, all the creatures are basically statted as good stuff creatures, at least 90% of them, right? I mean, they follow the curve, like this curve, most of the time. It's the case for, let's say, I don't know, like 60, 70% for all creatures. They get way stronger when you level them. So like all the draft decks are all good stuff decks, all mid-range decks, and yeah, the issue remains as before. It hasn't gotten any better, and it definitely still drives new players away. I'm absolutely certain. I've seen many of my friends, yeah, not only complaining about it, but they quit the game because of that. I mean, first was it could be that, yeah, maybe some parts were the client, some parts was card acquisition, but then levels grew. I don't know. It's just so, let's say, in your face RNG 3.1. Your opponent gets level 3. You have an all level 1 hand. And for there on, it's usually snowballing, right? I mean, then you put a level, you jump block it once, or maybe you have to take out 2 other creatures if you're just slightly behind on the board, and then you just take, like, with every hit, you take 6 of your life total. So, which puts you on a 2-3 turn clock. And there are actually also like there aren't lots of ways to recover. Yeah. So that is why lots of new players got and will still get frustrated, especially also for draft. It didn't fix anything, right? This new rebalancing. Yes, you could probably improve the card pool, and now maybe Technosmith is stronger. But for overall, for draft and for new players, I don't think this patch will be enough to let the game grow enough. That is my feeling. So, some very notable players like Hans, which some of you might know, they suggested stat line, like, I don't know, it's like 6, 9, 12, that probably follow the stat line more or less, or I don't know, that be more this, yeah, it's, now this is for A12, yeah, kind of similar, Kadros Colossus, yeah, 6, 11, 13, so maybe if there is a 9 or a 10, or a 6, 10, 14, I don't know, something like that. There is actually just different curve of basically all the creatures. And so from what I've heard on the forums is that Stoneblade actually tried that out. And I haven't heard any details, but they said it's one of the big reasons why they kept the stat line is the game's dragged on too long. Especially in draft. I don't know, they would just get into a fiesta of like jump blocking all day, and you play your level 3, I play my level 2, and that blocks it, and then I play multi-lane, and then you block each other all day if we don't have movement breakthrough, which not all factions have, or I don't know, any other kind of finisher. So, I don't know, if they are willing to look into that again, there was an awesome suggestion by Voctor on the forums. He said, yes, I mean, if that has been the problem, then of course it's easier to go back to your old stat line, because that's not been a problem, yes. If your opponent sees he's level 3 and you don't, and the game might be over in 2 turns. That is, I mean, the term for it is called inertia. Like, inertia of a game is basically kind of a resource when it ends. So in Hearthstone, the built-in inertia is basically the fatigue. That at some point, yeah, you will die, because if there are no cards in your deck anymore, can't draw cards, you start taking damage. And I think, Voctor made a suggestion actually that it could also be used for Solforge. So you could actually add some inertia and then maybe keep the stat line and keep the game still interesting. Um, if you add some additional inertia. And his suggestion was that once you play a level 3 card, it would get, let's call it fatigue cost. I don't know, I don't have a better name for it now. But it gets a fatigue cost. I actually know this also from another card game. They also, once you played, or if you replay cards, they get more expensive. If you get them from the grave. So yes, so when you play a level 3 card, you would actually add this cost to the card, this fatigue cost. And whenever you play it again, the cost would get higher, right? It starts at 1, 2, 3. So for an infinite deck, where you play your energy surges again and again and again, that would pile up quite quickly. And now what happens is, whenever you draw that card again, you take 1 damage for each cost that is on this card. So basically, at some point, you're gonna fatigue from that damage, or take tons of fatigue damage. That also inherently fixes this infinite decks, at least to a degree. So they are then not truly infinite anymore. So there is a damage cap onto them, for decks that recycle with, you draw your whole deck, and then you have energy surge, and then you have, I don't know, let's say Tendrils of Twilight and Crypt Conjurer, or I don't know, anything. There are tons of different combos that you can actually abuse to deal theoretically infinite damage. And that would also fix it. I actually quite like that suggestion. That it probably, right now it would actually never matter, because it would actually mean that, it might just very little for things that just have 1 level, or that just have 2 levels, but right now it wouldn't matter at all. Probably wouldn't even notice it. But I think it's a very neat way, actually, to deal with a problematic that games could drag on forever. So that is something Stoneblade should probably have a look at, especially if they are reconsidering. Maybe they are already set on the 5, 10, 15 set line, and if they are, I would actually suggest that, if it's don't have time to do that kind of rebalancing anymore, or not, if they have settled on this approach 100% right now, I would say then fix the shuffler, or take away parts of the worst RNG. So, and Nova Blitz actually did this, and they're advertising it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So what they do is, and the approach is simple and beautiful, I would say. They shuffle a bunch of times. Let's say you create 10 different shuffles, or it could be 20. And then you just, you kind of have to define what's bad and what's a good shuffle, so probably just count the level cards. And then you take away let's say for 10, you take away the 2 shuffled piles where the least leveled cards are in your top 20 cards, and then where the most leveled cards are in your top 20 cards. That's it. So, and then you choose randomly between all the others. So there's still lots and lots of randomness involved, and you can't predict anything basically on that, but it would take away at least the worst part of the RNG, like crushing your opponent directly because you're drawing all the level 3s, he draws none, or level 2s the same. I don't know. It's very simple, works with all the Solforge mechanics, with consistent. So maybe, yeah, why not? Dude, this is a simple fix, probably better than nothing, I guess. So if people, I mean, yeah, the really bad RNG they like remember, and not in a good way with level screw. That's just bad RNG. Very unfun RNG also. And if they don't want like this randomness, yeah, I took it from the randomness. Yeah, if you want to have more randomness, I don't know, print it on the cards, make them fun and crazy, but don't, yeah, address level screws somehow. Let's say that. And I don't think the current approach is enough. So maybe I'll do a TLDR. Short summary. So overall, I think the patch is better than I first thought, because it feels very intended that there are now aggressive archetypes and there are control archetypes. And yes, yeah, balancing is not perfect, but overall okay-ish, let's say that. What's missing is that the hate cards are too bad now. It's not, you can't really take any cards really anymore. Then Stoneblade still has to address new player issues, and yeah, they still have to address level screw issues. They have taken a valid approach, I guess, but I don't think it's a valid approach for new players. So they should still do something about it. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and please comment if you found any other problem, like suggestions, have great ideas, how to fix things, how to improve the new player experience, how to prevent level screw. I don't know. Come up, post your ideas, and I'm pretty sure Stoneblade will listen, and hopefully they'll see this, and yeah, it will help them. All right, see you.